I'm the chair of the Michael Foundation, founded and named after my late dad. So, like I said, I'm actually a professor of media and journalism studies at City University of New York, and I came really to host this event. And for me, like I said yesterday, it's like homecoming for me. But I actually started my journey here like 40 years ago. So I just thought it's my own contribution, like giving back to the society, that made me. Because it's not just in Nigeria, it's all over. However, my concern is that to what extent are we serious about dealing with it? Both as government, it's actually the shrinking role of government in national and personal security. So within that framework, we're trying to see if we can have citizens buy in, because institutions work because society or citizens support that. But if we don't have that citizen support, it's not going to work. So I think that this critical problem we do have right now, we can address it. It's not beyond what we can do. Nigerians are resilient people. They are known for that all over the world. And I think that they can surmount this problem. But if the will is there, and if the citizens can really participate, because it appears government somehow, as far as I say, is not doing enough. See, unfortunately, not just again in Nigeria, across the world, there is a growing tendency among political leaders to outsource violence. In other words, what they cannot get through the ballot box, they want to cling to power by using young people as tools of violence. So it's happening across the board. In America too. In fact, there's this article I made reference to that Dr. Rachel Kemper of Canadian Institute for Canadian Endowment for Peace and Security, who did a very good piece, making reference to GOP. GOP is the Grand Old People's Party, old party, the Republicans in the United States. How somehow through Donald Trump and all that, they're using all the militias to ferment trouble and to bring to power. It's not just happening in America alone. But what happens in America, a lot of people want to copy America, especially our people here, all over the world. So that's why it's an issue for the rest of the world if we don't stem that tide over there. Most people are making money out of it. And the thing that bothers me also is, why is it that we cannot use technology to track these people? As I'm using this phone, if they want to track me, they should be able to track me. Let them invest in security. Like I pointed out yesterday, I suggested that government should set up a security trust fund, because security is a capital-intensive project, right? Like what we're just doing is to just generate data, gather information, to see how we can translate these ideas into action. So part of the thing I'm also sharing with government is to set up that security trust fund. How do you fund that security trust fund? I recommend that all of us in the diaspora, we send money back to Nigeria, right? Each time I send you $100 now, right? If I send $100 to you, I'm going to pay $8 commission to get it to you, right? Now, the government can play ball with all these money transfer organizations. Out of that $8, give us $1 out of it, and it will be dedicated to that special account. That's huge. Most of us send up to $20 billion in a year. Can you imagine if you get that money and manage it properly? That'd be huge. Actually, the person who gave me this idea is immediate past ambassador of Gabon in New York. So, but we were talking a bit about this in the African context, but I thought we could narrow it down to Nigeria. You know how much money we send here? That's huge. If we play ball with them, and now, if I send $2,000 to you now, there's this war remit. You may know about it. If I send $2,000 for you now to you, when you want to get that $2,000 from the bank will give you 10,000 naira for your first commission. And it's that war remit that is asking people to just encourage people. So if they can do that at that individual level, how can we not have government to persuade them to be getting this money and ensure that it is utilized appropriately? Because it's also in their interest that there's adequate security in the places they do business. Because if, for example, I send money to you and you cannot cash it, or you are aware that things will snatch it for you, then I won't make that transfer and they won't make that money. Remember, I paid them my own commission. Like I'm sending $2,000 and maybe I'm paying like close to $20 commission. They will still give you your own commission. So they know what they're making, you know? So if you play hardball with them, we should be able to get some money, right? So, action points. That's security trust fund. Secondly, politicians should stop using violence as a tool of political power, especially now that we're trying to get into election. All right, a lot of young people who you see here, some of them be used for that purpose. All right, or this security more seriously. Someone was telling me yesterday that there was someone who was involved in this kidnap that was combined as an airman. And nothing happened. Can you believe that? You know, so there has to be some measure of seriousness, you know, by the government in terms of addressing these issues. It's not just a matter of talking about it. And unfortunately, some of them are not even safe. I had a meeting with Chief of Staff to the governor the other day, and all the things he told me, yeah, we can blame inequality as the foundation for insecurity. We understand that. But then, are they exacerbating that inequality? Somebody just drew my attention. Remember, I've been here for a long time. Jimobudo, under 4 years, in a larger Anambra state, built several industries. Sunrise, Avok in Nike Lake Resort. I can name a lot of them. Tell me any industry that have been put in place to employ young people for the past 10, 20 years. Think about that. It's an issue, and because these young people, why this is happening is because they're not engaged. You know, if they get a job, no one wants to be doing terrorism or kidnapping people. They're doing that. But I listened to Jonathan sometime in 2010 when he was warning people that all these money people are stealing. A time will come when some young people will come to Anokoya to give my own part, and that's what is happening.
So what do you think about the security votes being given to governors?
Yeah, someone asked me that question yesterday. I think it is important to have that, but it's been abused. And the amount is too much. Okay. Because I remember also, let me go back to Jimobudo's era. I remember as a student intern, that time they took over government in 1983. I covered a water panel. Jimobudo and Soko were jailed because of that security. And how much was it? $50,000, 50,000 naira that time, right? Today I hear there is up to 250 million to a government, and they're not utilizing it. Rather, they use it to, you know, I don't know whatever they do it use it for. But the thing is, I think it's probably misguided. You know, if I were a governor and you give me $250 million naira, right? Honestly, I can think of how to invest that positively to help young people, all right? Rather than just, and this guy, okay, all those police people that follow them, he doesn't pay them. The state pays, it's not. So where is that money going to?
It's from stipends.
Yeah? I understand. You know, you can't, that's the problem. So.
It's a pleasure to be here today at the Enugu Security Summit. Your Excellencies, Chairman Ekwo, Commissioner Alubi, distinguished guests. I'd like to thank you and also the Michael Ekwa Foundation and the Institute of Management and Technology for having me. My lecture today will be on health security and population health in the context of COVID-19. I'm Professor Robert Schwartz at Rutgers University. I have no conflicts of interest. I am International Regional Advisor for the Royal College of Physicians of Edinburgh, Editor-in-Chief of the Journal Dermatologic Therapy, Vice President of the International Society of Dermatology, etc. I dedicate this lecture to my heroic mother-in-law, Lieutenant Felicia Krzyzewska, known by the nom de guerre Lucia, who fought bravely in the Warsaw Uprising against the German occupiers of Poland. I'm proud to be a Polish American. And here we are with Professor Ekwo, who had just finished serving on a panel in Warsaw with the Czech Prime Minister and other notables. We remembered the Katian massacre, the genocide of over 20,000 of Poland's cream of leadership, of the military officers, intelligentsia, the professors, the priests, murdered in cold blood by the Soviet NKVD. I'm an alumnus of the University of California, Berkeley, but I'm proud to be in my third decade as a professor at Rutgers. We were founded in 1766, thanks to King George III. So I thank King George III and his wife, Queen Charlotte, for our founding. There's a King's College, too, on the small offshore island near us called Manhattan, and now known as Columbia University. Other surviving colonial colleges include Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. I'm fortunate to have worked and been home in San Francisco when this terrible, terrible pandemic, known as later as AIDS, HIV, hit San Francisco and so much of the world. And I am fortunate that we were able to serve on the United States Presidential Advisory Council most recently, to advise the President and the government on HIV/AIDS. Even more recently, the Royal College of Physicians of Edinburgh had an update in public health and clinical medicine, which I was able to chair, and Tony Fauci, Bob Gallo, and Katie Baker were my featured speakers. And a little bit of what we're going to say here today, of course, derives from their extraordinary work. Because, it's not just conquering or trying to conquer HIV and COVID, but really the whole healthcare system needs to be viewed in many ways, including healthcare security. Weak global structures for biosecurity and pandemic preparedness are a serious challenge to global health. In addition, Russia could, for example, use chemical or biologic weapons in Ukraine for a false flag operation. So we need to speedily recognize a source of an emerging threat, potentially pivotal, obviously, to mitigate its effects for the population at risk and for geopolitical considerations as well. Naturally, emerging outbreaks are going to occur. Lab accidents will happen. And of course, biologic weapons hopefully will not be used, but these are legitimate biosecurity threats that we need to plan for. We need to enhance the capability of intergovernmental organizations, including the United Nations and within Europe, the OSCE, to investigate rapidly and effectively. This is paramount. It does remain ambiguous whether the World Health Organization can freely investigate events owing to geopolitical and strategic constraints. So, the Convention on the Prohibition of the Development, Preparation, and Stockpiling of Biological and Toxin Weapons and for their destruction was promulgated almost a half a century ago. This was a system, or is a system, for addressing allegations for preparation, holding, and utilization of biological weapons, convening consultative meetings of state parties, and lodging matters with the United Nations Security Council. However, in practicality, this has never really been employed, although it's been in effect, in essence, for 47 years. So, health security possibilities include creation of a new intergovernmental organization to cover biosecurity and pandemic preparedness, perhaps within the UN structure, perhaps not. The use of the latest scientific developments and technological instruments including bioinformatics, big data, and artificial intelligence. Political and technical support for states parties needed is with challenges of mandating and incentivizing cooperation. This is essential. The father of population health was my mentor, Heinrich Blum. And he envisioned healthcare systems with consumer and provider participation at all levels. He was an extraordinary man. And as you can see, I graduated with a Master of Public Health from the University of California, Berkeley, after finishing first in political science. And you can see the signature of Ronald Reagan on this diploma, the then governor of our great state of California. So what happened? Well, Lyndon Johnson, as president, promulgated and signed a comprehensive health planning and health public services amendment in 1966. This is a public law which promised, in essence, the highest level of health care attainable for every person. That's kind of utopian in character, as you can imagine, because program resources are finite and concrete. Almost a decade later, recognizing a lack of equal access to quality care at reasonable cost, the National Health Planning and Resources Development Act was promulgated. Federal funds allocated, however, also gave inflationary healthcare costs. So, when things have to be planned in a manner that's advisable and to the best advantage of the population. Failing to produce an adequate supply or distribution of health resources despite funding is a reality. Not everyone wants to live far from major population centers. The lack of a comprehensive, rational approach was noted in this legislation from 1975 because it is necessary. Obviously, there's a maldistribution. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the increasing and uncontrolled costs, the inflating costs of healthcare, especially hospital costs? Do we have incentives that are adequate, and we do not, for the use of alternate levels of healthcare? How informed is the public? How can we make the public informed on the proper healthcare and methods for effective use of health resources? Population health is the backbone of any resilient healthcare system. We need to improve healthcare outcomes, simultaneously mitigating risk with a value-based model that would be ideal. Identification of demographic-based disparities, high-risk patients, and gaps in the healthcare system can be enhanced by healthcare and community outreach. Healthcare delivery has largely been based on unsystematic in-person visits to healthcare facilities. Volume-driven fee-for-service may be good in some situations, but it doesn't hit the whole population. We need a pragmatic approach that maximizes analytics and intelligent clinical schemes that can be shifted to optimize outcomes and minimize risk in population-level crises. Population-centered, maximally efficient, and resilient systems really have to be still devised. Facilitating the rapid adaptation of existing options in a public health crisis needs to be optimized. We need to promote health literacy versus via programmatic initiatives and advance healthcare solutions that are financially sustainable. Here we are in Washington, D.C. I'm being sworn in for the United States Presidential Advisory Council on HIV/AIDS. I'm proud to have served on that. And of course, we're interested in AIDS and of course the Kaposi sarcoma. And here you can see that Nigeria, where you are, a wonderful country with tremendous resources, has an enormous percentage of its population with the virus that causes Kaposi sarcoma, human herpes 8. And of course, this is the Kaposi sarcoma is the AIDS-defining illness originally, and it still is an AIDS-defining illness in Nigeria and around the world. This is a paper I wrote a few years ago with colleagues from Nigeria. We published that. And we noted that the prevalence of HIV-related Kaposi sarcoma was increasing in Nigeria at that time. We hope now and we believe that with the effective use of antiretroviral therapy that it may be going down. And here we are again. These are pictures that I took from my presidential commission. And now we have a new pandemic, and the pandemic is called COVID-19. This highlights even further the weaknesses in our healthcare system. The paradigm of improving outcomes while reducing cost needs to be stressed. Existing programs and entities transform to meet new patient healthcare needs, exemplified by this new pandemic. And again, one choice would be the decreasing in-person visits and enhancing the use of telemedicine for primary care and specialty care too, which allows hospital usage for those that really need to be there. So outreach to patients at increased risk for adverse outcomes, again, is important. Older people are on more medicines, often have other comorbidities, and they need to be looked at very, very carefully. Again, health literacy is very, very important. Wellness checks can preventive medicine. Has long been stressed, but needs to really be utilized. With COVID, again, we worry about long COVID. We worry about the neurologic sequelae. We worry about standardizing admissions, creating facilities specific if needed for COVID, and supporting provision of medical grade preventive equipment, protective equipment, because when a patient comes to the hospital, I mean, that's where the COVID is going to be, if it's going to be anywhere. And when to protect them, when to protect the healthcare providers. Remote options really have come into popular use, providing patients that aren't so sick with inpatient care, but that level at least, from their own residence, where they live or where they work. This prevents potential exposure to patients who can be closely monitored and also protects, I guess, healthcare workers. Patients that are really sick then can have and use and more comfortably utilize the facilities that are available. So the advantages of a remote care option, telemedicine is slowly transforming medicine. The potential to improve access is real to both general care and subspecialty care. This should be able to reduce costs and improve overall quality. And it has done so, certainly. Good examples at New York University, for example. It's increased markedly, and particularly so for people 20 to 44, even if it's urgent, because they tend to be computer literate, have phones that have, in essence, little pocket computers, and able to utilize the system. COVID-19 pandemic has driven the rapid expansion of telemedicine, and that's really nice. Now, there's two forms, of course. You can have store and forward, high-quality images, or you can have basically live, real-time, where the quality of the image often isn't the greatest, but you can really talk to the patient and provide good patient education. I was doing this for some time myself, and the hybrid doing both. That really is, I think, ideal. Store and forward, repeat consultations may be needed, of course, real-time. Again, I like that. I like both, and often you can combine both. Certainly, digitally enabled care has gone mainstream in the United Kingdom and in the United States, and I think a large part around the world. Now, again, pandemics are here to stay. The pandemic plague of Athens in 430 BC, a little before your time and mine, needs to be viewed carefully. Democracy in Athens resisted Sparta in the Peloponnesian War. This pandemic came up from Ethiopia, hit the Mediterranean with high fever, rashes. People were really sick. And again, I'm really quoting from Thucydides' book. I don't read the original Greek. Perhaps some of you do, but I have to stick with English, I'm afraid. But there's a beautiful translation by UCLA Professor Latimer of Thucydides' work on the Peloponnesian War. And again, this is where I take the quotes. And the most disturbing is the last one. Total loss of memories as they recover. They could not even identify those closest to them, or even themselves. I mean, the neurologic sequelae are rather terrifying. Assuming these people survived, because what happened was, in ancient Greece, these city-states would win wars by taking their agricultural, and they would take the farmland, and then the other cities they would have to surrender. But Athens was a sea power, so the farmers just went into the walled city, but the walled city then provided a lot of density in population. So a quarter of the population died of this terrible plague. Now, nobody knows what that was. Up from Kos came Hippocrates. Now, if Hippocrates couldn't figure it out, I don't think we will. To me, it looks a bit like Ebola today. It was a hemorrhagic fever of some sort. Devastating, though, that pandemic. Now, let's come from 430 BC to the present, or at least 100 years ago. We had a devastating pandemic that killed 40 to 50 million people. The Spanish flu, which did not originate in Spain, and it was absolutely, again, the worst. It also produced neurologic sequelae of considerable note, von Economos disease, including Parkinson's-like features, and when it hit the limbic system, moral imbecility. So they're terrifying neurologic findings. Now, this has come back basically every year, influenza, and it mutates. Sound familiar? In 1957-58, there was a mutation that was called the Asian flu, and it killed more than 1 million people and produced terrible neurologic sequelae, also known as the Capella syndrome. And amazingly, here we had a vaccine, finally, a brilliant vaccinologist, which picture I'll show you in a minute, got this agent 4 to 5 months ahead of when it hit America, and got a number of private companies to compete and to make vaccines, and made it happen. So when it hit America, only 1 to 2 million people died, as opposed to a lot more. And then, again, every year we have these vaccinations. And then Hong Kong flu was also very bad from 1968 to 69. And more recently, the latest influenza disaster. Well, again, we're not dealing with the level of the Spanish flu here, but we're dealing with 500,000 people worldwide who died from this H1N1 flu. So pandemics are here to stay, as we're stressing. A pandemic, of course, is an epidemic occurring worldwide, crossing international boundaries, and usually affecting a large number of people. Often it's a new pathogen, or one where there's limited or no immunity, as in a mutation. This which produces serious illness and is able to spread efficiently person to person. Again, my paper, Professor Rajendra Kapila, the nephew of the famous Professor Kapila, General Kapila, who did the neurologic basic work from that pandemic I referred to a minute ago. And he actually died of COVID, despite being fully vaccinated. So the 21st century pandemic profile: increased global population, more urbanization, enhanced international travel, lots of old people with chronic diseases, a perfect setup for a pandemic with not good outcomes. Again, the Spanish flu and its neurologic sequelae, including Vanakanomos disease and moral imbecility in the limbic system, and then the Asian flu with the Capilla syndrome, post-influenza hepatic and neurologic disease are noteworthy. Again, I quoted his original article, Vanakanomos in German, Professor Capilla's original article in the British Medical Journal. You may note Dr. Walter's article, and also Hilleman. This is the famous man who produced so many vaccines and produced that first effective vaccine against the Asian influenza, which saved so many lives. So here we are, in case you were in heaven. This is Baron Vanakanomos. This is the legendary vaccinologist who should be as famous as Salk and Sabin for polio vaccines, but it was not a self-promoter. This is the man, Maurice Hilleman, from the American Midwest, heroic vaccinologist at Walter Reed Institute. And of course, this is Lieutenant General at C.C. Capilla, Order of the British Empire, the Surgeon General of India, who did pioneering work. Now, there's more than just influenza viruses. There's other RNA viruses, specifically coronaviruses. 7 are of note to us. 4 produced the common cold, or something akin to that, and they've been around for hundreds of years, and these 3 new ones, however, have become a problem. I remember flying to Beijing in 2003, and they took my temperature, put a little gizmo to my head, and I thought it was very funny. It wasn't funny, of course, but at least this didn't kill a lot of people, nor did the second coronavirus outbreak with the Middle Eastern respiratory virus, where actually we were in Kuwait playing with camels. It was the camel virus, but thank gosh it didn't go across the border from Saudi Arabia to Kuwait. It's terrible. This is a frightening coronavirus, the MERS. And then of course this latest one. Actually, I was in Indochina in late December 2019, and thank gosh my wife had me come back from Laos through Taipei, where there was not a problem, and rather than through central China. And in fact, when I got home, Professor Capilla was taking care of a professor's daughter who had been in China and had terrible pneumonia. We didn't know what COVID was then. She did survive the patient. And in any case, you all know the history now, how it became worldwide, and of course they were fighting from both parties. These are 2 American professors, and professors, well, they're professors, but also they're senators, United States senators from each of the 2 major parties that are working hard. So again, cutaneous findings, I'm a dermatologist, are important because you want to see what you see, and there are 3 distinct patterns that Professor Humanitarian and I described originally, very early in the epidemic or pandemic. Distinct patterns, and we also talked about adverse drug reactions to the medicines used for COVID, which are real, and also to the lifestyle changes required by COVID, the masking and the hand washing. So here we are again, blisters associated with COVID-19. Sometimes you'll have hematologic problems and COVID-19. This mask may produce acne, may make acne worse, may produce a dermatitis from a reaction to the masks or washing your hands a lot. Also, you can see this is a hand dermatitis, and this is actually an infection with a bacteria called Pseudomonas that gives the green nail. Again, a considerable concern or potential concern. And again, the medicines, acne-like or eruption, can be from actually vitamin B12, which was very popular originally with the COVID. You may have a specific drug eruption as a result of hydroxychloroquine. That was quite popular early on with COVID too, as well as other drug eruptions too. So here we are with the pustules and the plaques with that specific eruption. Generalized pustular figurative erythema. And of course, how do you deal with so many patients who are immunosuppressed? How do we treat them? How do we even get them their medicines? And are the medicines for COVID, how do you handle that in COVID patients? A real challenge. Again, how do you prevent it? Can we use nasal prevention? That's Professor Rushik's idea, and others too, I'm sure. Is there a medicine we can use? Clinical trials are really pivotal. We need those. So everyone has theories. We had a theory about, as you can see here, but again, it has to be proven. And that's what we stress too. It has to go through clinical trials. Now, not only did we worry very, very much about infections with COVID, but co-infections. We worry about comorbidities. These are very important. If I have heart attack, stroke, then how much at risk am I? Also, you should know that there's a global epidemic going on even before COVID began with a rather frightening fungus called Candida auris. Now, this isn't the common Candida you think of infecting women, for example, in the private areas. This is a specific and rather dangerous fungus that is multi-drug resistant, that requires special equipment to diagnose it, so people wouldn't often pick it up. It spreads rapidly from fomites on tablecloths, on medical instruments. It is a real threat in the hospital. It is a so-called nosocomial threat, a threat in the hospital, and it's a killer. It's a killer in the intensive care unit. Obviously, not just this, which is running rampant around the world, but also we worry about seasonal flu, influenza, which, again, 100 years ago was the biggest killer in the Spanish flu. Now you can get both, and that's what we worry about, co-infections, comorbidities and co-infections. And particularly COVID patients in the ICU, in the intensive care unit, are susceptible, again, to Candida auris, and also we worry about aspergillosis. That's another serious fungal infection that is threatening as well. And of course, you can see Professor Capella and I described cutaneous manifestations of a 21st century worldwide fungal epidemic, possibly complicating the COVID-19 pandemic to jointly threaten mankind. And we believe that's still the case. So here we are, two University of California, Berkeley alumni, one of whom is very, very, very famous because he founded Apple Computer. He founded with Steve Jobs. This is Steve Wozniak. And let me say to you, as I finish up, that this is the Woz, he was called Steve Wozniak. Think different. We need to think different about healthcare. We need to move march forward, and I think Nigeria is doing just that. And we're all working together. So thank you very much for having me. I'm very grateful and to be on this program. Thank you again.
Or you can actually talk to a doctor. There's a robo-doc. I don't know if you've seen it. There's this robo-doc. It relates with you live. You tell the person, you're talking to the person, it's artificial. I'm having a headache. The person will ask you questions too. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm having wrist pain. The person will ask you to describe exactly what is wrong with you and provide you with so what you need to do. Usually, the doctor will first advise people to start taking medication without running tests, because they want to be very sure what the matter is with you. Okay? So the alternatives now, and this guy.
Call the so-called contacts that the police or other security agencies will give for you to raise alarm, and no response will be there. And from what is here, in the brochure, the information provided for these issues. It says one of the things here is that how can we state security outfit, or how can state security outfits better coordinate the sharing information, between bodies, agencies, and local community leaders. how can, I'll repeat, how can state security outfits better coordinate in sharing information between bodies, agencies, and the outfits, if they cannot respond if we do call those numbers. And again, the question follows, another point there says, or is it out of our control what the media portray because violence exists, or violent extremists organizations could potentially have a control over what the media broadcasts? Are we now going to just leave that for the violent extremists to control what we can do about the issue of insecurity? No, we cannot. And then how do we now get across that if the security networks cannot play the roles that they should play? What I am now saying is that our governments that control this, they have a lot to do to get them to do what they should be doing. And again, then of course we are going to be part of it because the security is everybody's business. We do our own role and expect them to do their own role in doing that. Now on the issue of health security, it is still the same thing goes back to those who are supposed to provide health service. We were told by the token, the whole thing boils down to they said, how can you fund when you go and when you get here? The government is not doing enough. In other clients, they don't have what they call health insurance, and classed among the different levels of economy. But here we don't have anything at all. You are on their own, and even if you go to the hospitals, they have insecurity health-wise. Because if you don't have the resources to take care of yourself, you are left to suffer the consequences of health illness. That there is always there for people to suffer, because nature has its own ways of taking care of yourself. If you don't how to take care of yourself, then you are going to suffer the consequence of the illness.
Thank you very much.
Today's program has shown clearly that we are all students because we keep learning, and we began to learn. Today we are hearing about telemedicine, showing that we as a country we are so backward, and that a lot needs to be done. Everybody knows that information is power, particularly in the hands of those who know what to do with it. Information is not just power, it's also a resource. And now we have been taught about health security. Health is wealth, they normally say, and a healthy nation is a wealthy nation. From what we have seen today, it is very, very clear that a lot needs to be done by those that are making policy decisions in our country regarding so many things. The world is now being driven by technology. And that is why we are all worried. Because in our country, people are talking about how to make life better. But here life is becoming increasingly unbearable. Life is becoming worthless in Nigeria because it is just about doom and gloom. Every day we wake up, we keep hearing things that sadden us the more, rather than somebody you know is no more alive or has been kidnapped. So for me, I came in late and it's only yesterday I began to hear about the Internet of Things from my friend of many years, many decades, Professor Uchennebu. So, for me, I thought at the time I was talking to the woman near me, I said, some of these terms are beginning to sound so new, so novel. I believe that a lot needs to be done regarding the issue of security of society, the use of information technology. And that is exactly why, when we're talking about information security, it means that we need to be very smart, because now you can lose your life saving if you're not security conscious in terms of how to use the information, how to safeguard your pins, how to ensure that people who attack websites. Many years ago, some people made me to lose my Facebook account. The Facebook account, I will use it. In fact, my cousin who was in Birmingham, they successfully took over £2,000 from him, telling him that, in fact, for some time I wasn't talking without my cousin. The father and my father were blood brothers. In fact, the father trained my father, and the man used to be a seller. So the young man, I wasn't in good terms with him because he didn't commiserate with me when my father died. And I felt it so bad. When those who should say sorry to you don't say sorry to you, it pains you the more. So they were telling him that I just arrived in Britain, that I'm having problems. They told him in another country that I need some money, this. He wanted a way of showing me that we are no brothers, and he was sending money before I finally knew about it to stop it. So information security is very, very important. Even my mother, they have stolen so much from her before we realized what was happening. Because my last brother is abroad. They told her that goods have come. Even when I was at National Assembly working, and she didn't even tell me that what was happening until they successfully stolen so much from her, and it was so painful. So for me, this festival of ideas is something worthwhile, and that is why, in spite of all our schedules, we have all come to learn. Nobody can claim to have a global of ideas. For me, I see myself as a student, still learning. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. And then, we're not going to be here in more than 5 minutes. All right? And I want to take the opportunity to appreciate this new for those who have exercised the patience today, even those who feel that they've been forced to remain here. I thank you for coming. And I hope you've taken notes, you understand? And you've also learned from our own examples, particularly the...
So my time is just now. Yes. Thank you very much. Let me just ask the students here, how many of you took the jab, anti-COVID? The first one, the second one, and then the booster. How many of you took the vaccine? You see, one of the problems you have created, those of you who didn't take, just listen. You see, tomorrow, next year, in 10 years' time, you want to travel to US or UK, or New Zealand or anywhere, and they ask you, did you check that country? Here, nobody bothers you. But that day, they will tell you that the internet doesn't sleep and it doesn't tell lies. They will tell you didn't take it that time. Sorry, we can't admit you into our country. In 10 years' time, maybe you are going for your PhD. Maybe you are going for your master's. Maybe you are getting married and your spouse is on the other side. Prof, am I telling lies? So that's the danger you have created for yourself regarding the, what you call health security. So it's good you key to it. If you have not, you better go and do it. Otherwise, you are jeopardizing your future. Did you hear what I said? Yes, sir. You are jeopardizing your future. I was embarrassed the day, it was a long time ago, I think the first time I stepped in Dubai. They were no longer doing fingerprint. What they were doing is eye print. To check my eye. From there, they will not know everything about me. I said, why are you putting a light in my eye? What is the problem? I didn't know where they were going. Just like somebody mentioned that years before they were talking of global village. I think they mentioned that. And they got the whole world become a village. That's about 30, 40 years ago. But today, is it not a global village? So you find yourself in 10 years' time, you're going for your PhD. They said, did you really take the COVID that time? You say no. You say, sorry, we can't admit it to our country. Because you are going to spread it there. And the latest one that is all over the place now is monkeypox. I hope you know about that. Monkeypox. You don't need to eat monkey. Don't think about that. It's a totally different thing. If you don't know, you never can Google it and read it. But this is the danger you have exposed yourself by not taking that anti-COVID. The first one, the second one, and even the booster. If you have not done it, you better, if you really want to travel out of this country, you are aware that one of the best tennis players was driven away from Australia. What's his name again? Can anybody mention? Djokovic, number one in the world, was told, sorry, get out of our country. He was already in, quarantined in a hotel, so you can't play. Get out of our country. And they threw him out of the country. Number one in the world. The office that coordinates all this. So that even the matter of your bank identification number, your PIN and all that, none of them are being stored. So that as you are running, you can run away from your shadow.
Thank you so much.
Once the security agencies get your shadow, they have got you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. May we now invite the chair summit to end today's session. Actually, this puts an end to the sessions.
100 meters radius. So if this building has it, the next building doesn't need to have it. That's a positive externality. A negative externality is when something goes wrong and it automatically spreads no matter what you do. Like COVID, like diseases like swine fever, like bird flu. Those things have very high negative externalities. So COVID has taught us that it's no longer a question of access and allowing, deciding, because right now if you go to the hospital, your ability to access healthcare is based on the money in your pocket. If you don't have the healthcare, if you don't have the money, you can't see a doctor. You must first of all get a card, and maybe 10,000 or 15,000 before you get to see the doctor. So access and equity are two things that threaten our health security. How easy it is for you to access healthcare? Is it near you? And then when it is near you, do you have the resources with which to pay for it? Those are the two things that we usually worry about. So health insecurity would manifest. Number one, Nigeria actually ranks second in terms of maternal mortality and morbidity. Okay? The country that goes ahead of Nigeria is India. And India is a subcontinent. India is going to even overtake China as the most populous nation on earth. So you can't begin to compare apples and oranges. India and Nigeria are not equal. So if India is coming first and Nigeria is coming second, it means that per capita Nigeria is ahead of India in terms of the number of women that die in childbirth. So I'm looking at health security now from a gender perspective. The number of women accessing healthcare across primary health facilities in Nigeria remain low. Healthcare facilities are assessed in Nigeria on 3 levels. We have the primary healthcare. Like if you go to Asata, there are about 4 health centers. That's primary healthcare. Then the secondary health centers, we have polyclinic. Then tertiary, we talk about the teaching hospital. How many people are able to go to the health center? You pay for tissue. You pay 1,500 for the tertiary institution health insurance scheme. How many of you here have bothered to go to the health clinic when you're ill? Do you know that when you pay that 1,500, it automatically confers on you for that 1 year access to healthcare? Of course, you're not going to go and get braces. You're not going to go and get designer glasses. But if you're ill, you're provided, you're made health secure by paying that 1,500. Are you aware of that? Have you bothered to access that healthcare? When we go there, when we check the usage of the facility, it is still underutilized. So you pay that little amount, and you still prefer to go to the chemist to get your healthcare. You prefer to go to the pharmacies. We check those details, and we're seeing that there's still gross underutilization. So when we question access and equity, the issue is, are we utilizing it sufficiently? For us, we don't even have to have health insurance. I don't have health insurance. If I become ill now, it's out of pocket expenditure, what we call OOP. There's nobody who is going to pay for me. I have to pay for myself. It's not subsidized. But for you now that it's been heavily subsidized, for example, if you suddenly become sick and the health center can't take care of you, they graduate you to the secondary institution. And if there is need, they move you to the tertiary. But you're not even using it. You're not utilizing it sufficiently. So this is something you people need to address for yourselves, okay? It's about what can you do for me, what can you do for me. The one that has been done for you, have you used it well? Then rising cost of accessing healthcare available to the general public is an issue. And then though there have been improvements, like I said, with maternal mortality, a lot more still needs to be done. It's one thing to have the health centers across Asata. It's another thing to have the health personnel that are going to be there to take care of you. I mean, you see the three musketeers, one for all and all for one. You see with health and COVID, it has taught us that it is all for one and one for all. You can't keep it and think that I'm well, I'm fine. We have now learned that it is very possible that illnesses can be transmitted from miles away. Okay? So thank you.
And the coordinators. Yes.
It has a beginning and an end. In fact, it has been very impactful 2 days. Very, very impactful, very rewarding. I'm sure of us have learned wonderful things. And let me especially commend my good friend, Mike, for thinking on how to contribute to alma mater. His alma mater is here. He gone traverse the whole world. He has gained some capacity. And he said, no, let me share, let me impart in my department. In this room now, we enjoy free oxygen from God. How much are we paying? Capacity. God appreciates service. And that's why he appreciates God. Let me thank all of you. I'm so enjoying, you've enjoyed to me. For me, I treasure service. What did you enjoy service? And that's the purpose of life. Because when you leave this mortal world, God will ask you how many mansions did you build? How much in your bank account? He will ask you how did you serve God and humanity? That's what you need the purpose of life. You get what? Negative result. So learn to think positive at all times in your life and do positive things, and it's all going to be positive.
Thank you very much.
Our lifestyle, contentment is a virtue. Contentment. Be happy with God. Gratitude is a virtue. No, so why am I doing this? No. Be grateful to God and work hard. Work hard and be spiritual. Be close to your God. Be close to God. You don't go to the church and say hallelujah or pray and so forth. What those things that you do that attract God's pleasure in your life, that's closer to God. Those things that attract God's pleasure, that want to give you bounties, that's what you do. Nobody's going to the church, just to the mosque, but those things, the lesson of life will live, that would attract God's pleasure in your life. So please, let me thank all of you in a very rewarding 2 sections. Like that I can say. And I'm happy that I'm part of this program. And I'm part of us are living here much better informed. I want to not just leave this to yourself. Impact it. Act it. Turn it into action. Knowledge, you know what is wisdom? Wisdom is acquisition of knowledge. It becomes wisdom. If you have a knowledge you don't apply it, so no, it's no value. So apply this knowledge and it becomes an act of wisdom. And your life is better. Once again, we thank you all for your contribution.
And we have no other person to take it but the chair of the Michael Equal Foundation. So he will be giving us the vote of thanks. Let's start for him once more.
Listen, you guys don't have any people from the way. When I used to work in Nigeria, I know when it's testing, we have first level, all the days, and children have a bedroom boys. So, let me just say thank you, really. Both the IMT and all the organizations, and my friend, sisters of me. When I was here, I was a reporter, and we used to have easy access.
I'm not sure we'll be able to replicate. I don't know what has happened to many years now, but in those days, you know, it made life very easy for us. You know, you had access to get all information. I really cannot forget that. I'm sure you all remember Emmett will be here to say that when we were doing manager politics those days, they are all behind the sector, you know that. So I will not forget all those days. I just want to talk something briefly on the tailoring. So fast forward to March of 2020, the whole world was shut down, right? You know, all the medication, all the doctor visits from my house, the therapy was through the internet. So the therapist is staying in my house or his house, and I had a video and he would tell me what to do. That's how for all the whole period. Alright? Today, even, for example, I can check if I do this, I have something in my hand, I do like this. It tells me my sugar level. I don't want to see this right now. Right? So you can call me to say, oh, you're doing what or you're not doing what. That's what you still come here. So that you don't have to go to the hospital, you can talk to you and tell you what to do and what to do. So that's about that. So let me also thank the students. Actually, today, to what I was said in terms of that we all started like that. I have one of the points too, or what I know of years I ended up doing here in 19. This is the purpose of human college. A very big institution in New York. Actually, we were happy because I came back from political planning and I hope you understand what he's saying. A provost of a very big school, a tertiary institution in America, was also a student like you here. Yes, he studied mass communication. This was a role of power, and they paid us a Porsche award. I'm sure they paid it. So, and for some reason, I don't know how to the rector or whatever, we were not putting like a director. So, but the story was that one was somewhere, right?
Fixed deposit account.
I'm saying that.
Yes.
Somewhere. Then, this guy was the, he got this in the line of lesson.
Have you heard about Senator Ayo Listen? Yes. He was a student here too, mass communication. Yes.
Yeah, that guy, classmates. Then Frank
Google is the publisher of Business Day newspaper. Do you know Business Day? Have you seen it before?
It was here too. This guy was the editor of Forum. There's a newspaper published there.
Do you know Forum newspaper published by the Department of Mass Communication? Yes.
So this guy had a school, was editor-in-chief of Forum. So the published from the account department, something here and there, and he published Forum about how money, that's what he led to the resignation of the director. That was investigative journalism. There was no banner in that story. However, he was the editor-in-chief for the editor-in-chief. So I'm just trying to tell you the power you possess, right? And the future that you can grab if you are serious. But this is a serious school and the pedigree is still there. So finally, let me thank everyone here, especially the senator. I think we have an internship, we don't have that conversation, but it's not something developed. I had a Zoom meeting 2 days ago with global communication department of the United Nations. It was a scheduled Zoom meeting. And we were talking about them, and now I'm to know where somebody was not going very well. So they thought I was, so I said, I'm in Nigeria. So, and we're talking about to help African youths that we are doing this program with. So we make this place a setup for that particular project. And I'm going to show you a little the leadership. Everyone here, especially the senator.
Internship. You were supposed to speak about it.
I think, okay, about the internship, I'm going to have that conversation, but it's something developed. I had a Zoom meeting and we were expecting our bench, and I wanted to know why somehow the thing was not going very well. So they thought I was stupid because I said I'm in Nigeria. So, and we were talking about how to help African youths. That we are doing this program with this. So can we make this place a setup for that particular project? I'm going to show you the idea. Because they also want a student where they can bring some students to do internship over there. Yes. So, and it's something I like doing. It's actually there's a project because some of us we set up more consultant for international education and development. Part of it is just to help students here. And faculty as well. Things like joint faculty research, student exchange programs, and all that kind of stuff. So when they told me this today, they were shocked. I said, oh my God, this is what I've been thinking about. So that's why I said I wouldn't have that conversation. But it's still something that is evolving. Alright, so I don't know where you're going, but I can assure you that we have helping the students. So, I was just thanking the senator really. Senator Nora, who is well, he's a professor actually, it's combining things. Actually, she was actually, we spoke in person, and she was actually supposed to be on something developed in the Senate that made her to send a representative. Please convey my special thanks to her. And you see, the funny thing when we have this conversation, I'm going to reveal that. Do you know, as highly placed as she is, she was attacked by some people.
That was surprising.
Well, honestly, so I even told her that if I was a speechwriter, I'm going to talk about how nobody's free in this country. So she told me her story and I couldn't believe that. So if she was here, I'm sure she would share that experience, but I'll keep it to another day. But she didn't tell me to tell people this, but I was trying to bring it up in the context of our conversation that no one is free. We have to do this collective. That's why part of this proposition is about how to get citizen buy into this problem. Because institutions work because of citizens. You're looking for government, we are the government. We are the government. You see this story they talk about power belongs to the people. That is true. It's not just theory. If you decide to bring down any government, don't move the mass. They can kill a lot of people, they can't kill everyone. So at the end of the day, the repositories of power are people. So we have to really work collectively to get this thing done. So please convey my special thanks to the Senator, the AIG himself. I'd also like to help from him. And you see, people of like minds come together. He's a good friend of Honorable. So that would tell you the police will be moving around. And let me also thank the director himself, who has been very gracious. Like I said yesterday, not everyone that approaches you to be a partnership that you welcome. And it's going to use fruits. I don't know if it's going to lead us. Because we tend to make this a summer event. Every summer we have to do things. Alright? And Dr. Okahatsu, I'm sure we'll have other things too. Damien has been tireless, walking all over the place. He does, I think it might happen when you guys will put this place very well. And you guys have someone who writes grants for you. Yeah, department. Grants.
Grant writing. We have to export that here.
We have to I can assure you that after all these tech companies will come, that's how this is free. There are a lot of things you can get, but you have to have a department or someone employed to be doing that. We will talk about that more. Let me also thank the Department of State Services. You know, they are here, but you don't know them.
They've been very patient.
Yeah, so I really want to thank them.
It's part of their training. They've been very patient. They've been here since yesterday morning.
On the lectures.
Yeah.
You know, so they come incognito. I used to really, relate to them so well. So I thank you guys. I'm hopefully going to see your director maybe sometime next week. I need to have audience with him to share some thoughts. I also want to thank all these women who came from rural areas to share some comments with us. Let me also thank Cecilia herself, who also mobilized them. Thank you so much. I'm going to thank Mrs. Keller, but I'm sure she's going to come and do the closing prayers so that we can wrap up the day. And let me also thank Nkiru also investing her time and everything. She really puts a lot into this project. Together with the core members who are also serving under this foundation. That's been very phenomenal. I want to thank everyone. And even Chelsea has also been doing her.
And even the panelists that are not here.
Yes, absolutely. So I really want to thank everyone on nature, all the people who participated. Because it was very stimulating and one of them a lot of ideas to strategize. And of course my friend who works in Radio Nigeria, thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone. Thank you so much.
And the coordinator needs to be thanked.
I'm still coming. They say,
because
Shakespeare says that what touches us from then should last service. So that's why I'm keeping you, for the last person. So training has been very wonderful. At some point she became my taxi driver. Because one time my driver disappears and he is getting all over the place. He said, don't worry. He took me to all the radio stations. And much as I do in the request, a lot of places have changed. He is the one who directed me, take this way, go this way. And he has a solution provider. He has a solution for any problem. Sometimes, I don't know how you keep on the phone number. You read one. Honestly, I'm sure, to be honest with you, I'm not kidding. It's not about why you're judging him. But for him, this would have pulled out this. To be honest, And him from the US, I was coordinating with him, all the big boss in the city, he put them. So how would I have to put up any billboard? All my guys I know, all of that. But he knows the current people. So I really thank you very profusely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor in Arts and the Department of Mass Communication, and of course of the Institute of Management and Technology. I also want to thank Professor Uchenna Eko, the chair of the Michael Eko Foundation, for partnering with this school, with our department, and with this institution to organize and host the Michael Eko Foundation Ideas Festival, which is tagged, what is it tagged? Enugu Peace and Security Summit. Thank you very, very much. May the Lord continue to strengthen you. But the next time we see you, you're going to be stronger than you are now. And we'll be organizing this thing. The Lord shall keep us all alive. And all the resolutions we have been able to, reach here, all the ideas that we've been able to generate from this conference, it shall yield dividends. The policy, or rather, the documents that shall come out of this event shall not just be thrown away. See, in Nigeria and Enugu that will experience better security in all ramifications. That is in the area of economic security, financial security, health security, what other areas of security, information security. We will see policies that will not just be policies, but policies that will be appropriately translated. They will be executed, implemented, and of course evaluated, and we will see better security in this nation. Please, I'd like us to just stand up and give a standing ovation to
to Professor Uchenna. He is not a joke. He is not a rich man. I'm just quoting him. He's not a rich man, but he has contributed to society. He has contributed to society. And he will be replenished accordingly. Thank you very much. Please, may we now invite Mrs. Kelly to say a very short closing prayer for us.
Good evening, everybody. Please, let me just use this opportunity to introduce myself. I am Mrs. Keleze O.C. Ni Eko. I am the last child of late wife and Eko. This is my big brother, I want to thank him so much. He just finds too much. He's somebody that whatever he wants to do, he follows it, and he's so determined. I'm a tutorial staff with Federal Government College here in Economics Department, okay? So that's just meanwhile, my other sister in Lagos, she couldn't make it. She's the assistant officer in Lagos, the deputy director over there. She couldn't just make it, I should greet everybody. She said that person that she really appreciates everyone. Thank you so much. So let us just pray in Jesus' name. In the most wonderful name of Jesus. Ancient of days, we want to thank you. We want to appreciate you once again because you are a wonderful Father. There is none like you. You have done it again. Since yesterday, you've been with us. Thank you for being with us.